Hello, my name is Steed, and welcome back to episode 5 of my video game Rescore series. This series is a creative exercise where I pick a moment from a video game I really like and try to recreate the music for it. Like many of you, I've been playing the indie gem Animal Well created by solo developer Basso that released earlier this month. I'm super excited for this episode because I think this game is a great example of stripping everything down to the studs, throwing convention out the window, and making sure everything is pointing in the same direction in terms of game design. This is a newer game, so I will mention there will be some minor spoilers, things like gameplay footage, and I'll be looking at some words from the developer themselves. If you want to go in completely fresh with no idea what the game is about, you should probably play it before watching this video, but I won't be spoiling anything major here. Before we start, refer to the timestamps and the chapters to skip ahead to see the stuff that you want to see. If you're just here for the music, you can skip to the end, but I've also created a Soundcloud for this channel and I'm uploading each and every rescore to it. So if you find yourself wanting to listen to the music without crawling through the video again, check out the links in the description for the Soundcloud. Otherwise, you know the drill. We're going to analyze what makes the sound design in Animal Well special, and then we're going to go step by step through a rescore process to see if we can recreate something that evokes a similar vibe for the game. I hope this inspires you to create something. If it does, let me know down in the comments, consider subscribing, and let's get to it. Let's start by giving credit where it's due. Animal Well is the creation of solo developer Basso. I'm always amazed by these personal projects with such a massive scope, and I personally feel like stories like this are truly pushing video games forward as an artistic medium. The soundtrack isn't officially released anywhere at this time. However, be on the lookout, as Billy recently stated in a Reddit AMA that they are considering it based on positive community feedback. For now, I think the best way to show your support would be to check out the game for yourself. You'll find links in the description to learn more about the game. I was initially intimidated with the idea of doing this game for the next episode in the series. That's because, relatively speaking, there isn't a lot of conventional music in this game. Through Billy's own admission, most of the game is ambient soundscapes. In a recent interview with Gunchuck Gaming at PAX East, Billy said, "There's not a banger chiptune soundtrack playing in the background that's getting you to go faster. I want you to notice little details, so you gotta just kind of sit there and soak it in." I'll be paraphrasing more from this interview, and I encourage you to go check it out. Links in the description. Back to Billy's point. The game is all about thinking about your next move, analyzing the room you're in to find secrets, solving puzzles, and much more. If you had a pumping, high-energy soundtrack blasting away, the player's experience could totally change. Maybe some people would subconsciously think they're playing a fast, high-action platformer, only to be discouraged and frustrated by having to constantly slow down and think. By carefully considering every aspect of the game, including the soundtrack, you ensure everything fits your vision. In this case, slowing down a little bit and taking in many details of your environment. But you can't get too comfortable. Ambient and atmospheric soundtracks can run the risk of making players feel safe and relaxed. Billy says, "You've got to kind of be on edge a little bit. It's not a cozy game where anything of consequence is stripped out, where you're being pat on the head the whole time. And this intention is reflected in the music. It's not just my opinion either. If you check out community discussions surrounding the game, you'll find people reporting the game having an eerie or sometimes even downright creepy feel to it. So we have an ambient soundtrack to slow players down and encourage them to think, but with just enough edge to keep them moving and exploring. Sounds pretty good for a Metroidvania." Let's look up some specific examples from the OST to find out how this works, starting with the title screen music. The piece mainly consists of two ideas that I'll showcase here on my MIDI controller. Also, full disclosure, everything I'm about to show you was transcribed by ear, so it's my interpretation of what I'm hearing when I'm listening to the music, but that means it could be prone to some errors here and there. First, you have this chromatic descending bass line. Note that we'll see the same idea later in the soundtrack. You won't find any traditional keys or scales containing these notes, so something already feels a little off and unsettling. Each note lasts 8 beats. The second idea is an ascending and descending line that is completely out of sync with the first idea, as it lasts 11 beats before repeating. I'm intentionally keeping this idea of beats simple, as a complicated discussion surrounding time signatures and polyrhythms isn't the goal here. The second idea does reset after the chromatic line plays twice, so it syncs back up with that chromatic line and it prevents things from getting too disorienting. Next, we are going to look at the safe area music. What's going on here is pretty simple but incredibly effective. The piece starts with a C major chord. The bottom three notes are a triad held down, but check out the movement we have with that note on top. Look familiar? It's the same descending chromatic 4-note idea from earlier. So even with a held major chord, something conventionally associated with sounding happy and comforting, instead we feel a little off and unsettling. And it's this callback to this unsettling idea that we established earlier with the title track. The second half of this piece is a D minor shape with some similar but slightly different movement on top. This creates some nice contrast with the first half, and then the entire piece loops. So this music that plays in the safe area is actually what we will be rescoring for today's episode, as it's my favorite. I'm going to be using the Warm Pad preset in the Roland Sound Canvas VA plugin. This plugin is full of awesome retro sounds, and I use this all the time when writing music for games. I started with a simple F major triad, and I started making some decisions. First, the middle note, or the third of the chord, is going to be the one doing the 4-note chromatic walk down. Since this game is a Metroidvania, I thought it would be cool to have the outer notes of the chord start to kind of run away from each other, creating spacious intervals, kind of like the map getting bigger as you progress in the game. The chord we finally arrive at the end of our chromatic walk down is highly dissonant, so I just picked another one that gives some nice relief from that dissonance. This is a safe area after all. And now the bass note will do another chromatic walk down to continue reinforcing this unsettling idea that keeps us moving along, because you can't feel too safe. Then the whole piece loops, and that's really it. I bounced this audio out so I could add some subtle effects to it, and here's what that sounds like. And that's pretty much it. I'm having a blast playing this game so far, and I just think it's an excellent example of making sure every single part about the game, including the sound design, is telling the same story and pointing in the right direction. And I think when you have that, it creates some of the more memorable pieces of music for us when we're playing these games. So Billy, thank you for this game and the very inspirational sound design. And thank you for checking out this video. Go play some video games, go do something creative, and if this video inspired you to do any of that, please let me know down in the comments. This series has been super awesome so far. I love seeing the comments where people are reporting that this inspired them to go do, more of their own creative work. So please let me know if that's the case, and we'll see you in the next video.